It started with a whisper, and now it's when I kissed her. Oh, oh, I want some more. Oh, oh,
Oh, that is snazzy. Every time it gets better and better.
Oh.
All right. Welcome back to the Three Men, One Band podcast. I am your tri-host, Jordan. And with me here I have...
El Presidente, John Adams.
Kevin Wallace.
There we go, Mr. 88, born in 95, not 88. He's a liar.
What
So-
an idiot.
We are going to continue our discussions of bands that we picked. We've gone over Her Last Sight, and we were supposed to record a mini-pod for their new album, but apparently there is no new album, so we were lied to. But
Kevin.
we are
My
moving
bad.
on. We did the Academy Is last week, and that was a long one. I had a lot of pages written. And then we have the Neon Trees this week, and I had 5 pages written before John said, no, I'll do it. And I said, all right. So I stopped writing notes.
Yeah. Well, I'm
John.
excited for this week because we're going to talk about a good band for the first time.
Yep.
Fuck
And
off.
John
Everyone's
is
looking forward to it.
John is giddy and excited. He already got mad at me because I didn't say good things this past week while we were listening.
Oh,
But,
yes. I am quite pissed off at that.
We know. John is gonna kick us off with whatever he's got for the Neon Trees.
Yes, so the band first formed in the year 2005. Where did they form, you might ask? Well, right now I'm fighting with my cat. He's all up in my business. But they
We
formed.
did not ask.
Okay, and I'm the one talking right now. You can back off. All right. So this band, the Neon Trees, formed in 2005 in Provo, Utah.
Yep.
So that would, make everyone think, right, that that's where they all kind of met for the first time, right, is in Utah. Wrong. Okay. Tyler Glenn, who does keyboards and vocals, met Chris Allen, who plays guitar for the band, in California, where they both grew up. Then Tyler Glenn and his family were like, actually, let's move to Utah. So Chris Allen, being one of the real homies like he is, said, all right, I'm going to pack up and move with you. While they were out there, they met Brandon Campbell, who plays bass guitar, and Elaine Bradley, who does drums and vocals for the group. And that's been the core group. It's pretty much been those four for the entire running of the band.
Yep.
After meeting in 2005 and forming their band, they released their first EP in 2006, which was entitled Becoming Different People. I don't think any of us listened to that EP this week, but that is
I
something on my...
Jordan and I did. Jordan and
I
I did.
did.
You didn't.
Oh, no, I didn't. I could have, but I listened to these singles.
Man,
from
your
last
own
night
band,
from
you
that came
didn't.
out.
You didn't even listen to your
Hey.
own damn EP. God,
No, because we
Just
talked
stay.
about albums only.
I
It's my band. I make the rules, and I said I didn't listen to it.
yeah, you're telling us now after Kevin and I slaved hours over listening to everything.
Yeah, like a 5-song
Let 'em
EP.
know.
Okay. But
You know
anyways,
what?
back to what's important here. All right, womp womp, you got me. So-
that's not the last time.
The Neon Trees, okay, their first break came in 2008 when drummer Ronnie Vanucci of The Killers listened to the band play. What I thought was an interesting fact is it wasn't just a random happenstance that he heard the Neon Trees play. He actually was formerly in a band with Brandon Campbell, the bass player, and it was a ska band, which just shows the range of these guys and what different styles they were able to play in. But after Vanucci heard the Neon Trees, he thought, "Oh yeah, you guys are good. So I'm gonna bring you on tour with us. You're gonna open for us in our 2008 tour." So that was the first time the Neon Trees branched out of just their little region there and got some wider known publicity. This is just a fun fact here, but the Neon Trees actually got their name from the restaurant chain In-N-Out, who had a location in Utah with neon trees on their sign. And that's where the name came from. And it turns out that one of the band members, I can't remember who's now, father is the one who installed that sign. So that's kind of a funny little twist to how they got their name. But after this 2008 tour for the Killers, the band signed for the first time with a record label in 2009, and that was with Mercury Records. They didn't waste any time. They got straight to going and released their first album, Habits, in 2010. This album, it was relatively successful, one would argue, as it reached 113 on the Billboard Top 200 albums list, and their lead single, Animal, reached number 1 on the alternative songs list and number 13 on the Hot 100 singles. It also won the 2011 Billboard Top Alternative Song award while becoming a double platinum track. So they did, get some pretty big highs on their very, very first album. This then launched them into a little bit more success. While they weren't ready to quite go out and do their own thing entirely yet, they did then follow that album up with going on tour with some pretty notable bands, including Duran Duran, 30 Seconds to Mars, and My Chemical Romance. So they were doing well enough that some of these big ticket bands wanted to capitalize on their success. Then in 2011, the band released their second album entitled Picture Show. It was their first top 20 album of their time, with their song Lessons in Love with Cascade hitting number 94 on the top 100 Billboard chart, and the lead single Everybody Talks hit number 6. This led to a lot of touring through 2012 and 2013 for the band, when they toured around with Maroon 5, the Flaming Lips, Taylor Swift, and the Offspring. So another list of some heavy hitters ranging through some different genres, so really speaks to the flexibility of the group. They followed up with their third album in 2014. The single Sleeping with a Friend hit number 51 on the Billboard Top 100, so some more early success there. And their album was entitled Pop Psychology, and it kind of pursued a more polished sound that the band had not previously taken. So this album did earn them their second consecutive top 20 album, and it peaked at number 6. It also won a Billboard Music Industry Pop Award for the lead single Sleeping with a Friend. So again, some pretty good success came from this album. After this, though, I wouldn't say there was trouble in paradise for the band, as they never have officially recorded splitting up or anything like that, but they took a little bit of a break of actively working together, as the lead singer Tyler Glenn decided that he wanted to strike out on his own and pursue a solo career, which he did in multiple different avenues. It started with him releasing a solo album titled Excommunication, which was met with a lot of backlash, which happened because of his Utah roots. His family moved to Utah because they were Mormon and wanted to be closer to the church out there, and Glenn did not stay Mormon for very long in his adult life. While he did go on a mission trip after high school, he eventually fell out with the church due to personal beliefs, and many of his songs, or many of the messages that he put on this solo album, Excommunication, were kind of taking a diss at the Mormon religion, which obviously was not very well received.
No.
So that was the first real controversy that I found with this band. But after this, in 2018, Glenn continued to do his own thing. He branched into a different genre of the arts when he debuted in the Broadway musical Kinky Boots. So he explored that. He cited that in his time on Broadway, he began to miss the band and wanted to get back together and make music with them. So in 2019, the band reunited to work on their fourth album. The band released the single Used to Like, which became a top 10 song in 2020, before recently releasing their album I Can Feel You Forgetting Me, which peaked at number 56 on the Billboard charts. After this, and I actually, despite my enjoyment of this band, did not realize this, they just released a new album in September of 2024 entitled Sink Your Teeth. I don't have a lot of research on this album other than it did have a few really popular tracks, particularly Favorite Days, which is the first single on or first tune on the album, which made the Billboard Top 100, peaking at number 30. So some success of the band in my eyes that I didn't realize, but over their 5 albums, they've accumulated let me try again. They've accumulated 11 songs that have reached in the top 100, ranking as high as number 6 with ranking number 4 with Used to Like. So they've had success from the beginning all the way through to the end in all of their albums. Another controversy that I've heard about them recently is in all their recent performances, Tyler Glenn is taken to spitting on people in the audience. I'm not really sure what that's about. I found it on Reddit, but not on the Neon Trees Reddit. It was someone else's subreddit that I found it on, so not a lot of details, but some people were just wondering what's going on, why is he doing this? So that was the heavy hitters, the big notes that I had. Jordan, is there anything that I didn't talk about that you thought was really interesting or important?
So kind of, let me read through here. I think you kind of hit everything. The big thing was, I guess, the Killers, what really got them their big break.
Absolutely.
And you could really say that half their band wasn't formed until their first album, because I think 2 or 3 left after that first EP. They've had a few songs in the top 100. If you're going with modern day stuff, they are over 1 billion streams, which is pretty gnarly. Not a lot of bands can really do that anymore. I guess they've really been around that long. I guess 20 years. Well, they have. How long was their hiatus? Like 6 years?
Yeah, from like 2014 to 2020, They didn't release anything.
Yeah. I don't think I really had anything that you didn't talk about.
Yes, and those for wondering at home, not only did they surpass, 1 billion streams on Spotify, they have 6.9 million monthly listeners.
Yep.
So still very popular amongst music enjoyers everywhere.
Yep.
So I am very happy at this point in time to jump in and start discussing what I thought about the first album. Are you guys ready to jump in?
Not doing the first EP.
Oh, you guys can talk about the first EP.
No, it's your band, so we're not doing it.
Okay.
Well,
all right. We won't talk about it. We won't
We'll
talk
do that as a mini pod. I'll listen to it tomorrow, and we can do a mini pod on it later in the week or something.
It's like a 15-minute album. I wouldn't do a mini pod on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically a Her Last Night album.
To me, it was just, I didn't really care for it. But
Yeah.
So
first album is Habits, right?
Yep. First album is Habits.
Yep.
So for me, starting out with Sins of My Youth as the first song on the album, I thought it was a strong start, personally. I thought the instrumentals were very cool rhythmically and harmonically, and there were some cool textures in the song. It was, for me, fun, and I enjoy the vocal gymnastics that Glenn does really throughout his entire tenure with the band.
Yeah.
Continuing through the next song, Love and Affection, I thought was another really interesting tune. Although this is where, it's only the second song, but it's where for the first time I started questioning some of their musical choices. The last 10 seconds of the song were just purely instrumental, and honestly, I found it a little weird, which is a common thread through a lot of their music.
yes.
Continuing, they go into Animals, which is a single. It did very well for them. And it was poppy, upbeat, fun, energetic. I liked that. Same thing with Your Surrender. It used some nice harmony, and it kind of started hammering in this pattern of the song starts fast and intense,
Yep.
then you get to the middle and they slow it down, and then they pump back up at the end, which I don't mind that one bit. To me, it's very familiar in the sense of symphonies and sonatas and all these classical music things go fast, slow, fast, and they're just doing the same thing but in pop music. So that was cool with me. 1983, another great song. I like this one a lot. That's actually the year Tyler Glenn was born. A lot of the songs in this band were written by Tyler Glenn, which is why so many of these songs, as we'll discuss, tie back into his life and important things going on in his world. Girls and Boys in School, to me, was probably one of the best songs on the album to this point. Is that what I wrote? My notes say, to me, was a song on the album so far. Voice to text really sucks on my iPhone, but I liked the ending a lot. I said the beginning wasn't my favorite, so I'm guessing it wasn't my favorite song on the album. In the Next Room, love it. Absolutely love it. Great song. Great technique vocally. Great pop sound. Really like it. Our War, not my jam, but it was also the first time that I've ever heard it. There were quite a few songs that I'd never listened to before, and this was one of them. And the remix of Animals to end the album, don't like it. I don't like that remix whatsoever. Not it for me. But then thinking about the album as an overall picture, a lot of the songs, if I'm just to hop on Spotify and say, I want to listen to the Neon Trees, there were quite a few songs on this album that to me make that list of essential listening of the band. Like what? Sins of My Youth, Animals, Your Surrender, 1983, In the Next Room. Those are all songs that when I listen to the band, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
And I guess my final thought would be that I didn't really think there were any exceptionally weak points in the album, but I thought they had a solid level for their floor, but their ceiling wasn't really much higher than where the floor was. Like, I thought all the songs were kind of rated roughly the same. Some were a little bit better, some were a little bit worse, but there was no wide range of, oh, this was a great song, this was a terrible song. Other than Animals, I just didn't like the remix, but the original is fine, so I didn't rate that too harsh.
The original is a song that I threw into my playlist that I play for my students while they're doing stuff. It's just a great little boppy song. I agree with most of what you said about this album. I mean, this is a very good album. I gave it a very high ranking of a 7.8. When I really look at this album as how it is sonically, instrumentally, lyrically, this kind of bounces off what I was saying about the Academy is last week. That when the Academy was writing their last album, it was going in a much poppier direction, just kind of like how that whole scene was in general. And if you were to listen to the first EP that Neon Trees put out, it was definitely more raw and pop punky, like a lot of the bands were in that little era. And Habits is a natural progression of where music was heading in that direction. And they really solidified that sound and were able to jump into the mainstream by perfecting it. I think a lot of their success, though, is due to the Killers. And if they were partnered with them, that was a great one to have producing your stuff. I don't know who produces the Neon Trees music, but if you were to tell me it was the Killers doing it, I would 100% believe you. But this is definitely a natural progression of where, I don't want to say rock music, but like alternative music in the mainstream was heading, and it clearly worked for them. My only really chief complaint of this album is that every single song is about some girl, the same girl. I mean, every song, the lyrics are literally the same thing to me. All about my lover, this girl, my lover, my lover. It's the same thing every song. Lyrically, he needs to step it up a little bit after this album.
Okay, respect. I can't
But
agree. I
you can't
especially
agree.
notice in later albums, it gets. I think it gets more repetitive towards the end of the.
So I'm not saying that his lyrics are repetitive. I'm just saying that the tone and the subject of his lyrics is literally all the same person. So I don't know if this
Right.
album was supposed to be what do they call it, a conceptual album about his lover, or if he was just throwing a bunch of pop rock songs together and it just happened to be about a person. It's like in the first few verses of every song, it's literally about a girl. There is nothing about anything else. Like literally every single song is about a girl. I mean, well, maybe not. Oh, never mind. I was going to say, maybe not since my youth, but then I got a little bit further down and it was State Girl again. That's my only complaint. Other than that, it's a great album. I listened to it probably 3 or 4 times this week. I love it.
Yeah,
Um,
I it's a very strong start for them.
It's a very strong start. Kevin, what do you think?
I also thought that was a pretty good album. Sins of My Youth, I thought that was a really good start to the album. It was a really catchy song. Looking at my notes here, the only thing I didn't really like is I did not like Girls and Boys in School. I didn't like the Animals remake at the end. My only comment for that was no, because
that was the only thing I read too was no.
yeah.
Same page, exact same page.
Not sure who they're trying to market to there.
Animal to me, John, when was this album released? 2009?
2010.
2010. I mean, to me, I think Animal is one of like the classic, like in that time frame, like one of the best, most popular banger songs. Like I can't tell you how many times I listen to that. I won't get tired of that song. I feel like that's a really good song.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Classic.
I really liked how, like, most of my notes for this first album was just how catchy the beat was. It was upbeat. I really liked that. I ended up giving it a 7.3. They're not,
damn.
yeah, like I pretty much in the next room and Our War, I didn't care for as much, but overall, I don't have too many complaints about this album.
Well, not surprising. I gave this a higher score than you guys did. I went with a 8.3. I thought, very high things about it. So,
all right, Mr. Contrarian here. Mr. Contrarian got to go against the grain as usual.
yeah, well, someone's got to give things a high score. Don't worry, I have some low scores coming.
So do I.
We all do.
Well, who wants to kick off album number 2?
I think you should. It's your band, brother.
All right, let's keep her rolling.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
I thought, again, that they had a pretty solid start. The second album, I thought Moving in the Dark was pretty catchy. I do think it was a little more polished, maybe than the first album, but still, still good. If this duck doesn't shut up, man, I'm going to have to come over there. Teenage Sounds, I've always liked this song. And in the past, it didn't really do it for me. But I think this time it really, really did. Everybody Talks. This was the song that I heard very first of theirs back in 2011, I guess, when they released it around that time. So I've got a real soft spot for it, but I think it's an absolute hit. I think it's one of their absolute best tunes.
Do you know when this song was released in 2011 by any chance?
Do I know if it was?
Like when in 2011?
I don't know exactly when.
Okay.
I think that and Animal are their two biggest like singles like that have just just like Animal. I won't get tired of Everybody Talks. I think they're both great.
Yeah.
Well, technically, by statistics, Used to Like is their biggest song of all time.
Yep.
I'll tell you how much I dislike it.
and Animal and 1983 are tied at third. So let the Billboard music industry tell you what to think, okay?
What are you saying is their biggest one?
I'm sorry, they're wrong.
Used to Like apparently hit number 4. So they say that would arguably be their best.
Okay. I thought you were saying like numbers wise. I was like, Everybody Talks has almost 1 billion plays on Spotify. And
Oh no, Everybody
the
Talks
next
is a
closest
hugely
is
popular
Animal with
song.
400 million.
But
That's
no,
what I thought you were saying. I was like,
on
what the hell is
the
Used to
chart,
Like?
on the Billboard
What the hell is
charts,
this guy
they
talking
claim.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay.
But no, after those first few tracks, that's where I started getting a little lower on this album. I thought Weekend, it had a fun chorus, but the rest of the song didn't really hold up, and then same thing with Trust. I think there were some elements of it that were good, but the second half is so much better than the first half that it's just inconsistent. Hooray for Hollywood, not really a big one on that song. Still Young, it's okay, but it doesn't really hold my attention. I Am the DJ starts out, like I wrote down, I don't really remember liking this song so much. But as I listened to it, I thought, oh, this is actually pretty good. It's doing a whole wide variety of things. And then it got to the end and they started doing this like 2 or 3 minute long vamp. And I thought, oh, this is why I don't like this song. It just rambles on. It doesn't state any new ideas or anything musically interesting. It's just them jamming out because they feel like it. It's like, okay, if you want to do that in your own time, sure. Don't make me listen to it because it's not that fun. But then I think they also had some great songs on here. I liked Show. I liked Close to You. There were a couple good ones. I think comparing this album, which had a regular version and a deluxe version, and we all listened to the deluxe, I think the deluxe extra tracks, those 4, helped it out. I think those improved the album because 3 of those 4 songs I did enjoy. And this is another common thing I noticed with this band. I think they start out albums strong. They can put 2, 3, 4 songs later. I'll talk about more than that, but they can put a couple good tracks to start an album. Yeah. But then when they get to the middle of the album, it gets weak. And when they get to the end, out of their 5 albums, only 1 time do I think they ended with a song that's a good ending to an album that ends something the way you want it to. And this was not that album. Don't You Want Me? I love the original version of that song. This cover sucks ass.
Oh no.
I cannot stand it. It's just like I couldn't even listen through the full thing because I just hate it that much.
Oh no.
I couldn't do it. But overall, I did like the album. I think that their best song so far is Everybody Talks. It's one of my favorites of all time too.
Of course.
I do think the highs on the second album are higher than the first. But I think the lows are also quite a bit lower. I think there were many more forgettable songs on this album. There were maybe only 3 songs that I would consider a must play from this.
Yeah. I'm
going to give it a 7.8 here. But if it weren't for the bonus tracks, it would be closer to like a 7.1, 7.2. Like the bonus track to me really, really, really helped it out a lot in how I evaluated it. Without those, I'm pretty bad.
Quite interesting.
Jordan, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Sure. So right off the bat, I'll just say that this album is their peak to me. I think it took everything from the first album, made it better instrumentally, lyrically. Clearly, their Billboard charts and everything showcase that. I was asking about Everybody Talks. I saw this band in 2011 in DC. It's chilling off. They came on, I want to say right after Capital Cities and right before Panic at the Disco. I think I didn't get to see Neon Trees up front and close like the other bands that day. I was too busy eating chili, but from what I heard far away, I can't remember if I heard Everybody Talks. I don't think this album is out yet. It was like May 2011, but I definitely heard Animal. I remember that playing. So they must have just been playing Habits all the way through, is my guess. But I was really upset to hear you say you didn't like Don't You Want Me, because that is the best song on the album for me.
Oh, disagree.
That is their best song on the album.
And to answer your question, Spotify says that the albums were released January 1st of 2012.
But I didn't ask that. That's when Everybody Talks was released as a single.
I don't know when that released.
I thought that,
we'll see if I can find it.
I thought they came out first.
It probably
But,
did.
as usual, I could be wrong. But overall, I thought this album just kind of took everything in a better direction. I had high hopes after listening to this album. Like I said, I love "Don't You Want Me." That was a great cover, much to what you had to say, you big butthole.
I just don't like it.
Everybody Talks is clearly it. I know it's the most played song with good reason. It's their best song. I mean, I'm trying to think of a song I didn't like on here. I'm the DJ's good, show's good, weekend's good. Movie in the Dark. Was Movie in the Dark an intro song, or was that no? That was a full song.
No,
One of these albums had like an intro song. It's like a minute long. Yeah, there's like nothing on here I didn't like, and it's over an hour. I love long albums. That just does it for me. And ending with "Don't You Want Me, Baby," nice almost 6-minute cover. Oh, that was just chef's kiss on top, dude. I was just at the end of it. It was just.
Well, I'm
so
glad
good.
somebody liked that song, because yet it did not do it for me.
All right, Kevin, what you got, buddy? Oh wait, I didn't finish. I gave this album an 8.3, my highest of all their albums.
Very
Oh,
nice.
right.
Very good.
Yeah, it's very good indeed. Very good. What do we have to say, Kevin?
So, much like their first album, I thought they started off with an okay, catchy song. What is it?
Moving in the Dark.
Moving in the Dark. The catchy beat I liked. This, for the most part, not for the most. I don't like this album.
Wow.
Teenage Sound to me, it sounded whiny. Everybody Talks. I mean, like I said before, that's a banger. That's always gonna be a song that I like. I just didn't. Weekend wasn't bad. Hooray for Hollywood, not bad. I don't like the chorus where they're saying that la la la. Bullshit.
Word.
Show, to me, that was a forgettable song. To me, it was just very. To me, every song besides the first one was just him talking about how lonely he is and how he just won't shut the hell up about it.
Hang on, I'll be right back. I gotta go shoot my neighbor's dog.
John, you are alone when it comes to the "Don't You Want Me" cover, because I did enjoy that.
I'm gonna need the listeners to back me up on this one. If you're listening to this, listen to that song and agree with me on how trash it is.
That wasn't a bad cover.
Yes, it is.
No, I enjoyed that. That was a good cover. I gave this album my lowest score yet. I gave it a 5.4.
Damn.
Yeah,
Damn.
I do not like that album at all. To me, it was just not good.
I would agree that it's. I think we found another case of sophomore slump in here, but I don't know if I'd go that harsh on it, because you liked it different than I did, or disliked it different than I did, but there were a couple good tracks on here.
I mean, looking at let me see. The first song was okay. Weekend, I said, was not bad. There's just nothing that I would go out of my way to listen to again besides Everybody Talks or maybe Moving in the Dark. To me, it was a forgettable album.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's fair.
Well, I'm very excited about this next album.
Wait, Kevin, what was your score for the last one?
5.4.
Oh my. That's
Yeah, he
higher
was-
than any of my next scores I give.
Oh, we are
No
complete
way.
opposites
Yep.
then.
Yep. That is higher than any score I get from here on out.
Wow. Well, then I will talk first so the listeners know who to really listen to for this third album.
It's
Pop
not you,
Psychology.
buddy.
Pop Psychology to me is the best work they did.
You're wrong, but that's okay.
You're wrong, buddy. You're way wrong.
You are
guys
wrong.
are allowed to have your opinions as long as you know they're wrong.
I know
look,
facts.
look.
They're facts.
Love in the 21st Century, first song, good song. Text Me in the Morning, another really good song. Sleeping with a Friend, great song. Teenager in Love, banger. I Love You But I Hate Your Friends, great song. Unavoidable, I'd never listened to before. I honestly just never had, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good track. Voices in the Halls, I liked this one a lot too. To me, it's their first true attempt at a slow ballad style song, and I liked that from them. I personally don't know if, and you guys are going to roast me for this, but again, I'm right and you're not. I don't know if you can find any other album that has 7 stronger songs to start it, excluding like a greatest of all times album. I think this is about as good as you can get to start an album.
Literally every album we've talked about this podcast so far to date.
I was going to say, you're going to be proved wrong.
I
Instantly.
strongly disagree.
And,
Foolish
yeah.
Behavior I'd never listened to. Living in Another World is decent at best. First Things First is a fine song. It makes a lot of sense now that I know the backstory of them moving from California to Utah, because it talks a lot about, oh, I moved to Utah. My friend came with me. Now we're blah, blah, whatever they're talking about. Okay. And then American Zero, it was solid, I guess, but not what I would have chosen to end an album with. So I will say again, this is the best album that I think the Neon Trees have dropped.
Wrong.
I would also say it's the best album on the podcast so far.
Wrong.
I mean, I think I'm right.
So,
Well, you're wrong.
what's the last
step further?
All right.
I think that this might be one of the best albums that I've ever listened to. Ever.
Wrong. Wrong.
And to justify it, in my eyes, it's got 6 or 7 fire songs to start the album. And then Then out of the remaining songs, I think probably at least 4 of them I would consider good, strong songs. I think the weakest point of the album is the last song. So
I can agree to that.
I'd say having a real strong album, then ending on a weaker note is fine. So, are you guys ready for this? I gave this album.
I'm leaving.
You gave this a 10.0.
I didn't go that crazy.
9.9. Whoa, buddy, slow down. Whoa,
I gave it a 9.2.
Oh my god.
I love this album. I absolutely love this album. So I'm ready to hear you all flame it now, so I can bitch and complain. But I love this album. Absolutely.
So what's the last song on this album called?
Shut up! I'm not saying anything. I know where you're going with this.
What's
American number between -1 and 1.
I was gonna say, just don't even say the American part. That's my score for this album. So no, I'm just joking. Going into this album, I took one look at the cover and I took a look at the name of the album, and I knew going in I was not going to like it. Just looking at that, I knew I wasn't, and I was right.
What made you think, looking at it and looking at the name, why did you think you wouldn't
I
like it?
could tell as soon as I saw the word pop, it was going to lose all of the amazing instrumentals that I had been loving so far.
Okay.
And it traded in for a basic drum beat on all the songs that I do not like in pop rock. But that is just me. If they were a band that had already been doing this, I probably would have liked it more. But to go from Picture Show to this, it felt like everything was a massive downgrade. I don't know. It's hard for me to see everything just go down like that. I don't like the lyrics. Okay, the lyrics I think maybe got a little better. But my biggest complaint is you have a song called Teenager in Love that says Teenager in Love so many times, and then you get to Foolish Behavior, and one of the first lyrics says Teenager in Love. It's just, what are we doing here, buddy? What is it with the teenagers and loving? So, I don't know, man. It's so hard for me to find anything good to say about this album. This was a one-time listen through for me, by the way. But those are just... maybe I need to listen to it again if you're giving it an 8.2. But this was
Did you say 8.2? I gave it a 9.2.
That's what I said. You gave it a 9.2. That's what I said.
Oh, yeah.
But like, I need to go back and I guess listen to this again. But it felt like 80s new wave music to me.
Okay.
If that accurate, maybe, I don't know. It felt like an 80s.
One of their
like 80s album.
is new wave.
Yeah,
I think that's an apt description.
Okay, it felt like an 80s. Looking at it, was like an 80s album cover to it. But I don't know. As soon as I saw pop, I knew I wasn't going to like it, and that turned me off completely. I don't know how else to really describe it. I'm trying to really hammer down my thoughts, and I can't because I was so infuriated while listening to it. Like, you ever seen Squidward and SpongeBob just pissing him off? That was me trying to listen to this album. Like, it was just, they were so catchy. The drums were so good before. There were some guitar solos before, and it felt like everything got traded out for basic pop music, and I can't get behind it. This is where I begin the gradual just cratering of scores. I was very nice and gave them a 5.2 for lyrical content.
Okay. Oh, pretty wide discrepancy there. Shit. Kevin, what did you think?
Well, I think I'll fit right in the middle with my score, but I did not hate Pop Psychology. Compared to the last album, good God, I want nothing to do with it. Love in the 21st Century, I thought was good. Text Me in the Morning, not bad. Sleeping with a Friend, I liked. I mean, I didn't really have voices I didn't like. I'm trying to see. American Zero I did hate. That was a bad song.
Yeah, agreed.
There's Voices. I'm looking at the wrong album.
Voices in the Halls.
Yeah,
I think
that
is
was
what
the
you're
wrong
talking
one.
about.
Yeah. I was looking. I already had the next album on because I was just so over Pop Psychology already.
But to me, at least, I thought they, like, for them as a band, I look at them as more of a poppy, upbeat, catchy kind of thing. Like, I'm used to them. I don't like when they're slow and shit like the last album. But this was a good bounce back album for me. I ended up giving it a 6.7.
Okay.
Not too many complaints on it. So I guess I'm right in the middle of you two.
Yeah.
You said 6.7?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe if you flip those numbers around, I could get a little more behind it. 7.6 sounds more accurate.
No, well, you're wrong.
Hot
It's
takes
okay to be
tonight,
wrong.
guys. Hot takes.
Not really. Wasn't this their worst selling album?
Well, according to the Billboard records, which I've already told you is the sole success marker of the band, this reached number 6 as an album, so it was technically their best ranked album. Sales wise, I don't know. I didn't look into those numbers, but
It is
Yeah,
their least streamed album.
well, people
Is
are
what I'm going to
wrong.
make up and state as fact.
Okay. Well, I'll not trust your word for that. But going into the 4th album, now we're talking about I Can Feel You Forgetting Me. This was released after the band had separated for a little while, then came back together. Again, I thought it started out pretty strong. Was that my? But living single was mediocre. Everything is killing me. I thought was a great song. I liked that one. Going through something was just kind of underwhelming. That's how I felt a lot about this song. Was it was just kind of underwhelming. Going through something again, catchy but underwhelming. Did I already say that? I think I did.
You
You
did.
say it a third time. Just to tear it
All right,
down.
we're going through something. I'm going through something right now, trying to read my notes.
You having an
I don't think
aneurysm?
I'd ever heard the song "When the Night Is Over." I thought it was okay. Their final song in this album, "New Best Friend," I think is the strongest ending to an album they've had. It was the first time I actually liked the last song. Now you guys will disagree because you liked that trash ass cover of "Don't You Want Me," but I thought this was their best one. I did go noticeably down in my scores. I
What did
still
you
thought
rate
was
it?
a solid album. I gave it an 8 flat. I liked
That's
it,
still too high.
but
Way too high.
I thought it was probably only their 3rd best out of the 4 albums they'd released.
What? You mentioned every song, but did you say anything about going through something?
No, I don't think I did. So
Right.
going through something, it was underwhelming, honestly.
Okay. I was just making sure. I didn't catch that first
wait,
time.
I also said it was my least favorite track so far.
Okay.
Did I mention that it was underwhelming?
No, and that was talking about living single, right?
Yes, that was talking about living single and going through something.
Oh, wait, can
And,
you go
and
over
quite a
that
few
one
of
again?
them actually. Yeah, so this song it's about something, but you're also going through that something.
Is it like a tunnel?
Yeah, it's like a tunnel. But it's
Okay.
like a tunnel that you go through and you're like, oh, I
So
guess
it's like
that was a tunnel.
Yeah, so it's like
kinda
underwhelming.
Yeah, just kind of a little underwhelming.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, like it sounds like really good at first. You're like, oh, it's a tunnel. But then as you're going through that something, which is a tunnel, it just
that
kind of left me wanting more.
Yeah, that really reminds me of that one song "Going Through Something" by Neon Trees.
I think that is the perfect song to say it's like.
It is just underwhelming.
Just underwhelming.
Yep.
I agree.
So, "I Can Feel You Forgetting Me" basically sums up my thoughts on the album.
That's funny. That's good though.
Again, you're gone for 6 years. I wanted something to really catch me. I like Skeleton Boy.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I think I liked Everything Is Killing Me that I've written down. None of these songs were added to any of my playlists. Same with Pop Psychology, nothing got added. But I love the album cover. That's a dope album cover. Gives me spooky vibes because you're being forgotten. Again, it's missing that pizzazz that the first 2 albums really gave me. It feels like just another generic pop rock album. I don't know. I feel like the heart wasn't in it. It felt like something that was forced because they were back together. I don't really. Sorry, my wife was texting me saying that the cops showed up at my neighbor's house. That's awesome. Probably about the dogs that I heard them shutting up. No, I was not.
Probably.
I was not the one that called them. I was actually going to the bathroom. But I think. So, did they get back together in 2020 or 2019?
They got together in 2019.
Okay,
and then
so this
released
was
the
like
album in
a
2020.
this is like a middle of COVID album, which I'm sure probably hurt any kind of momentum they could have gotten with this. I know a lot of bands fell into that, but this is just an album. I mean, literally, the title is how I describe it. I forgot about it. Better than the last one. Like I said, there are actually some songs that I talked about, but it's a 6.0 from me. I don't know what Kevin has to say.
Would you give it a 6.0?
6.0.
I feel like this album kind of went down. Nights. I feel like with every album so far, they start off with a good song. Like they get something to get your attention.
I
You still-
agree. I really agree with that.
We call
You
those
still-
album openers.
Yeah, it's an attention grabber. You're like, oh shit, this is a catchy song. Let me
And it's
keep
It's
listening.
usually going to be the first album or first song on an album.
Yeah. Used to like. I thought that was catchy too. I didn't have a problem with it. Holy Ghost, I did not like. Skeleton Boy, I did not like.
Oh my God.
It's a good song.
No,
It is.
no, it is not. You guys are wrong.
At 10.
You guys are wrong, and that's okay. I like Everything Is Killing Me. What else do I have?
What did you think about Going Through Something?
Yeah,
Going
that
through
was,
some-
it was pretty underwhelming.
Going Through
Yeah.
Something, I said it was kind of slower, but it still had a catchy vibe to it. So I did not hate Going Through Something. I thought that was okay. New Best Friend I did like. I ended up giving this a 6.2.
6.2. Okay, gotcha. Now,
Interesting. We're pretty close on this.
for this last album, which was called I Don't
Going
Sink Your
Through Something.
Teeth,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my evaluation a little differently this time. I'll talk about the first song, which was Favorite Days. In doing my research before I listened to this album, I saw that this was their best song according to critics on this album, and it reached number 30 on the Billboard charts, which was, I mean, it probably puts it as like their fifth or sixth highest ranked song ever. When I listened to this song and thought that it was okay at best, that told me it set the tone for the rest of the album. I thought, okay, if this is their best and I don't really care for it, what's the rest going to be like?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read my end of notes general album,
Okay.
word for word. I said, I am really quite disappointed in this album. All the other albums had a sense of style and a sense of direction, a sense of a bigger picture that was being looked at. This album had, I'd say, at least 5 or maybe more different styles in it with the songs out of just 12 tracks. There was just no sound you expected from them after every song. For me, that made it really hard to listen to because there was nothing so similar other than about the first 3 songs sounded almost exactly the same. Then after that, it's just they threw a dart at a board and said, okay, we're going to sound like this. I also thought the album was programmed very poorly. There was no flow, no connection between songs. They didn't, like I said, they didn't get built up and then slow it down and plan their style switches. It just wasn't good. it was like all medium speed things the whole way through the song, and styles changed quite drastically. And I thought the edge that they've had in some of their past albums was completely gone here. There was no even if I heard this album first and then listened to anything else they put out, I think it was totally different bands that maybe one person had stayed and they found a whole new group and changed their identity. It didn't sound the same to me. And it's not the same band that I, had thought they'd released good albums for about a 10-year run. I thought they were completely gone. The lyrics on this album, I think, were the weakest of any album they put out. I would also say that compared to albums that at times I mentioned, I thought they had a high floor or a low ceiling or somewhere in there. I thought the floor for this album was incredibly low, and the ceiling was at the same level as the floor. There was no good songs on this album. The bar was just incredibly low the whole way through. I kept waiting for the album to get better and better, but it never did. There's maybe 3 songs that I would even consider listening to again on this album. And when I go back and think about it, I think 2 of those 3, it's only because they weren't as bad as the rest. So, I don't think I'd really listen to them again. Again, I'm really disappointed because I do like this band a lot, and I love some of the sounds they've had on their first 4 albums. But at times, I don't even think I liked this band after listening to the album. I couldn't get it at all. And to me, truthfully, I think this album damaged their legacy. To me, they've had so much success commercially through their first 4 albums and toured with some great groups that I'd say would put them towards maybe not the very top of their genre, but they'd have to be in the upper echelons. Even if it's down at the bottom of that list, I think they're, in the top 15, 20% of their genre. Yes. This, I would say, significantly weakens that conversation and argument that they're towards the top, because it was just so bad, so utterly awful to listen to. I gave it a 5.5. Truthfully, that might have been too high. It really might have been too high.
You said a 5.5?
A 5.5.
All right. Just your last thoughts on it. Is that all you had for them?
Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay.
I can talk more about how much I hated it if you want, but
now you're going to sound like me with pop psychology, and I'm just getting so angry. I've lost my train of thought. And so Sink Your Teeth, latest release came out back in September. I honestly like this one a little bit better than the previous album. This album I actually listened to, I think, 3 times this week, just to kind of get a final thought on it, because I actually didn't hate it too much while I was listening to it at work and stuff. Did not like the album cover. It was just poorly made. I liked El Diablo. I like Paper Cuts. Tensions. I thought it was just those were kind of some good songs. But I agree with what you said, that it was kind of just the same thing over and over, the same. You said, I think, medium paced over and over again. Yeah. There was no real sense of direction. Nothing really faded into each other like previous albums. Mm-hmm. It was it was not what was I going to say? It wasn't cohesive, I guess
that's a great word for it.
Good, yeah. It wasn't cohesive.
I do think we talked too before about things being repetitive. I thought the lyrics in this were so fucking repetitive. There were songs where they just say the same words over and over and over.
Now, I think a big thing with it sounding like that is just the nature of music now. Because it's losing my head on that album. Yes, it's the last song. So I was went back and counting. So you had Favorite Days, Losing My Head, Dream Team, Bad Dreams, El Diablo, and Cruel Intentions all released as singles. That is how many songs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's half the album was released as singles before the album came out. Singles are never going to run well with other songs on an album, in my experience, except for like 20 years ago when singles came out after albums were released. But that's just the nature of music. They got to get their songs and playlists. And I mean, looking at their streams on like Spotify, I don't see anything cracking their top 10. Well, Dream Team has 3 million streams, and that's it. Not good. I can't imagine that's the highest one. There's no way that is the highest on a band. This many listeners. Then again, their listening numbers can be very skewed by Everybody Talks. So I don't know. That happens with bands that have a huge hit like that. But they also have Animal. So I don't know. But overall, I did like this album a little bit more, just because it did have some catchy songs and compared to the previous two. Funny enough, I gave this album a little bit less of a ranking compared to I Can Feel You Forgetting, just due to what would you call it, like mixing, cohesiveness. I don't know. I did like the instruments coming back, but it did not feel like I was listening to an album. I could definitely tell I was listening to a bunch of singles that were slapped together. I gave it a 5.8.
I think that's a very fair score. Kevin, bring us home, buddy.
Well, I guess I'm going to be the guy that overrates this album a little bit because I kind of like this album. I will say, like with all the other albums, the first song it brings you in. Favorite Days, I do not like. To me, I don't think that's a good song. Bad Dreams, I really liked. Heaven was pretty good. El Diablo, I like the catchy beat with Heaven and El Diablo. Paper Cuts was okay. Cruel Intentions, I really liked.
I did like how they used a saxophone at the end of Cruel Intentions. That was kind of cool.
Yes, I really liked how they incorporated that. That was different, and I feel like that's probably why that's one of my favorite songs on the album, because you just don't hear that often. Acting was okay. Leave, I wasn't a huge fan of. Losing My Head was okay. But I mean, for me, for this band, like I said before, is I like the catchy, the upbeat stuff. So I gave it a 6.9. Maybe I just don't understand music like you guys do. Maybe I'm just...
Don't say it.
No, I'm just saying maybe I just don't understand.
No, I mean, we've had different thoughts on like pop psychology. I thought way different than you guys. I think sometimes you just have different tastes than other people, and that's part of music, man.
Music is subjective.
Yeah.
Unless I listen to pop psychology, in which case that's an objectively good album.
That album just sucks,
but we'll get
dude.
into that another day.
No, we're not. It's over. It sucks. Get over it.
I mean, I gave Neon Trees an overall score. I added up all my totals and divided it. I gave it a score of a 6.5.
Wow, I gave him a 6.4.
I gave 7.8, but I think that's partly due to my high ranking of that pop psychology album.
So when I was doing this ranking, it was kind of hard for me to, because I like to do it, like I said last time, compared to their genre. And I was sitting here thinking, like, who is in their genre? I was sitting here thinking, like, all right, you got the Killers. And I was like, the Killers are legendary status for everything they've done. And I had to go on a Spotify, and I was like looking at their similar like bands, and I was like, all right, who else is up here? You got Group Love, I know like one song. Fits in the Tantrums, I know one song. Fun, I know their one album, they were a one and done band. I know Panic at the Disco, Arguably, yes, they are in this genre, and they are. I hate to say it, they might be above and beyond the Killers, given all of their accolades. And then it started mentioning the Plain White Tees, and I was like, Plain White Tees doesn't really sound like this genre, but okay. Fountains of Wayne is pop punk, which makes no sense. All American Rejects, again, I don't agree with that at all. They're straight up pop punk, kind of. And then American Authors, who, I mean, I guess. So it's really hard for me to gauge a rating for this because I couldn't really think of other bands that are like them. But when I was comparing them to like Panic! At the Disco and the Killers and some of these others that I do now, it's like 6.4. That sounds okay because for me, they started out with 2 fantastic albums and had a nice spiral downward after that.
I sort of agree. I just think their first 3 albums were good. Then they had a rather steep drop off after that.
Second album, I can't get with it. It's just maybe it's just a me thing, but I can't get with it.
Which
The
I will
rest-
say,
The rest is okay, but
I picked this band because, and I'll admit, I'm a little bit of a victim here, I'd say, of streaming services. And, I liked Everybody Talks. I liked Animals. So then it starts playing the other songs that are most like that. And I probably have about 15 to 20 songs of this band that I really, really like.
Yeah.
And I listen to those so much that I think to some extent I really built this band up in my head of, oh man, they're awesome. I love them. They're great. If everything sounds like this, they're just awesome. And then as I got into it, I realized there were quite a few songs that I actually had never listened to. And as I listened to a lot of those new songs, and I found more often than not, they did fall into a category of, oh, these aren't so great. So
Yeah.
I think they have the cream that rises to the top, and they have in my opinion, I think they have, 15 to 20 songs like that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's kind of not as strong as I maybe would have thought before listening through everything.
Yeah. You also got to remember that this band started, over 20 years ago now. They were just coming out of their teen years. That's like your peak creative time when you're starting to get into a band. You have all this stuff laid out, like, yeah, we're going to do all this, write all this. This is how it's going to sound. That's like your peak creativity time. And obviously, 20 years later, you got to learn how to evolve and make some different music. Yeah, their instrumentals and stuff change, but you can't be 45 talking about being in love when you're 16. It doesn't float that way, brother. I mean, that's a big thing of pop punk that a lot of these bands start to fall into, like All Time Low and stuff. Like, you gotta learn how to branch out with your lyrics. You can't be 45 and talking about loving when you were a teenager. It doesn't work anymore, man. It doesn't work.
yeah.
And that's a problem with the Neon Trees, is that their sound definitely changed from album to album. Their lyrics did not. They did not really seem to grow. And I feel like I don't
Go
know.
ahead.
I feel like with the later stuff, especially this last album, once you start pushing out all those singles over and over again, I feel like you're not really trying anymore. Because all the singles are always going to be the same 3.5 minutes, and they're all going to sound the same. And a lot of bands fall into that hole. But yeah, for 20 years, you got to expect a band to not really sound the same. Or they're just a master of their craft and they can put out the same shit every 4 years and it works. Not many bands can do that.
You're right with that one.
What were you going to say, Kevon?
I was just going to say, to me, for maybe not the first album, but the second album going forward, they just really, to me, the one thing that really kind of annoyed me is how they just kept talking about how lonely they were and how relationship ishy it was. Like, they kept going back to that. Like, as the more I listened, I was like, okay, you got to start doing something. And like, to me, it just got old.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you got to figure out the lyrics. That's a big thing for me in music.
And I do think that is, again, because Tyler Glenn, he writes lyrics for nearly every one of their songs. Sometimes he collaborates with other band members, but very rarely, if ever, do they have writers from outside of their 4-person band writing for them.
Yeah.
So I do think he falls into that trap of, oh, this is what I know how to write. I'm just going to keep writing it.
Yeah.
And
hey, I mean, if it works, it works.
I mean, yeah, if it works, yeah.
If you're
But
going to have
to
those
me-
same fans keep coming back, why not keep doing it?
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But to me, it got repetitive and it got boring.
Mm-hmm.
And it all hit a rock bottom. It's like,
Disagree.
Overall, that wasn't a bad listen. They had their highs, they had their lows.
definitely had their mid.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
that's the first band where I'd say to me, that's just not a band that I'd go out of my way to listen to, though. But I mean, they definitely had their songs that I like.
Yeah.
But
I'm
I'm more of
fun
a
exercise for me.
Exercise? What?
Yeah, it was a fun exercise for me to
I thought
listen
said you had
through.
to go exercise.
No, it was a fun
I was
exercise.
like, what are
for
you
me
talking about?
to listen straight through to everything. It was fun. It did kind of justify me though, in thinking, okay, the songs I like, I really like.
Yeah.
But I don't know that, with the exception of maybe one song off of Pop Psychology, which I can't even think of the name right now, I don't think anything got added into my rotation of songs I'd listen to.
Yeah.
I'll walk away from this listening to the same things as I did walking in.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
yeah.
All right.
So if we don't have any more thoughts about it, do not keep listening if you don't want spoilers. Kevin is going to tell us his next band, so I hope we are ready for it.
Well, if we're ready,
Quagmire.
if we are ready, Jordan, you had a guess early and you were wrong. One of my favorite bands that I really want to do a deep dive into. Ice 9 Kills.
Never heard of them.
That's 9 Kills. Yeah,
Jordan, you have that on your wall in your basement.
How do you know what is in his basement, bro? That's kind of creepy.
The hell, man, that is.
I used to live there.
You need to just.
Dude, this clown is fucking creepy.
All right,
John,
so Ice
John,
9 Kills.
I love this band.
They're pretty. They
How many
transcend 3
fucking
genres.
albums do they have? Holy
less
shit.
than Neon Trees.
No, they don't. What the? This is so many albums.
Are you
John's
stupid?
tweaking.
Dude,
He is.
look, when I go through, I see The Burning, Safe as Just a Shadow, Predator Becomes the Prey, Every Trick in the Book, Silver Scream, I Heard They Kill Live.
Okay, can you calm down?
Welcome to Horrorwood Under Fire. There's like 9 or 10 albums.
They have 6 albums. They only have 6.
Yeah, it's not
That's
that bad.
not what I see on Spotify.
You have
bro.
The Burning, Safe as Just a Shadow,
Yeah.
Predator Becomes the Prey,
Mm-hmm.
Every Trick in the Book,
Yes.
The Silver Scream,
Yes.
and then Welcome to Horrorwood, which is Silver Scream 2. And then everything other than that is just like random bonus tracks and stupid stuff.
It's not that bad.
All right,
'Cause
that's
they
not.
had-
When I look on here, just at first glance, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is how many things is under here.
Okay, John, well, you know what?
6 is much better. I can do 6. But I thought there's no way I find time to listen to 14 albums.
That's easy. Just have your students do it and have them write it all up for you.
Word. I'm sure they'll enjoy that.
Well,
You'll
they're
have to let
popular
me
with
know
that
what you
crowd.
think about their singles.
He's not single.
No, that's not what I meant.
All right. Well, so we got Ice 9 Kills coming up next week, guys. And if Her Last Sight decides to drop 10 more singles, we'll do a little pod about them too. And we'll always keep an eye out on if the Academy releases their first song in 17 years, or if Neon Trees decides to keep existing. So we'll see.
If they put out another album, we are not listening to it.
Her last site?
No, neon trees.
Why? We have to. It's for the mini pods.
We're committed.
Yeah, we're committed, bro.
You guys can commit. I might take a week off.
You signed up for this.
You signed up for
know.
this.
Hey, I'll use my week of vacation time.
We don't get vacation time.
We don't get vacation time.
Sick leave.
We don't have that
No,
either.
you're gonna hate the blueprint because it gets rid of sick time for teachers.
Please tell me you're capping.
I have Kevin.
I was like, there's no way they get rid of that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, this has been our longest one so far, I believe.
Yeah, I had a lot of things to say.
Not enough
Yeah, John.
either. Not enough
Yeah.
bad. I wanted some more
John.
bad stuff.
In this
said.
podcast,
Shut the hell up.
Look, in this podcast, I was just going through something, okay?
I wanted some more bad stuff said, and you failed to do that.
Me?
Yeah.
I spent like 10 minutes on their last album just talking about how awful it was.
Yeah, but you were saying it nicely.
You should have said it meaner.
Yeah, you should have been mean about
Give
it.
me another chance at it. I'll be meaner.
That's too
All
late
right.
now.
'Cause y'all
Have the
kept
duck
talking about,
quacking.
oh, Diablo's a good song. You're talking
Song
about
like
that
that.
Diablo is a
song.
good song.
And the whole time I'm thinking, that song fucking sucks. It's not good.
Well, you'll get to just tear Ice Nine Kills to shreds, buddy. So
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give them-
Kevin better have his 20 pages of notes for this band because they've gone through so many members. It's ridiculous.
I'm just,
John, going for you. This is one of the calmer, softer bands, so you get a nice break
Okay.
from her last
okay.
site.
They're not heavy like Academy was.
Okay, well, looking at their picture of like this creepy fucking clown with his mouth wide open, I'm not sure if he's trying to eat me or lick me or show me his rotten teeth, but it looks pretty hardcore.
No, that's
And he has
all.
no eyes. He's doing like the Undertaker thing, rolling his eyes back. That's actually
The
kind of
Undertaker. Stay tuned for our wrestling podcast.
cool. 3 guys, 1 wrestler.
No. All right. So, well, this has been yours truly, the 3 men, and our 1 band was Neon Trees. We'll see you all next week as we talk about Ice 9 Kills.
Peace out.
Adios.
It started with a whisper.